Okay, John. Well, let's do this then. So we're doing a 30-minute interview. We're going to ask you one or two interesting questions. So let's start at the beginning with your education at school and university. Do you want to tell me about that?
Yeah. Well, I went to a school in Dublin. I was educated by the Jesuits, and they certainly taught me the art, I guess, of public speaking, and that's something that I hope has stayed with me all my life. So the benefits that I gained there was enormous. Also, an interest in Latin and Greek and history and English literature and everything like that. So it was very academic. Schooling.
I'm just going to interrupt wanted to ask a few things because you did classics at university, didn't you? And then wasn't it your mother that...
No, I didn't. In fact, so the possibility, I had a scholarship to Oxford to do classics, but to do greats, but I didn't. Right. My mother decided not to. Well, not quite, but I mean, it certainly it was the first thought was that I would do that, but then I turned that down and went to medical school in Dublin instead.
Right.
But I had done I guess I don't know what it was. There was an entrance exam in Ireland and in Latin and Greek and French, and in fact I did pretty well in that. So that actually paid for my university schooling in Dublin. So my university in Dublin.
And your father, he wasn't a doctor; he was a lawyer. Was that right? Or
he was a lawyer, yeah. But there was a strong medical history in my mother's family, and and that was where that sort of thing came from.
Because your brother Andrew, who is married to a professor of veterinary surgery, I happen to know, he did medicine as well. So, I mean, both boys did medicine. Any comment about that?
Yeah, my other brother is a lawyer, but Andrew did medicine as well. He did general practice. He's very happy with that, and as you correctly say, married to a very, very successful professor of veterinary medicine in the University of Edinburgh.
And you might remember that we wrote a book together with both of our GP brothers, Shared Care in Prostate Diseases, many years ago now. We had
that was a great experience, actually. I think every single one of us, all four of us, really did enjoy that. It was it was a very good experience.
A good experience. Okay, well, what then got you into urology? Because people always ask me that question. Why the hell do you want to spend all your time examining people's prostates? So why did you go into that specialty?
Well, again, I suppose it was some degree of luck. I had people who were my mentors. I went to University College Dublin and then to St. Vincent's Hospital in Dublin, and the urologists there, Frank Duff and Dan Kelly, were just terrific and really superb surgeons, very encouraging, and I really just fell in love with the whole subject, and that absolutely never left me. It's a simple decision, having worked with them.
Dan Kelly's still around and still sort of great cheery character, isn't he? Is that right?
Yes, he's been a great. Yes, but he was a great friend and mentor for me, and I still enjoy his company actually, and certainly he's a terrific chap. I think everybody who knows him actually likes him, so it's terrific. And
then you came to London to the Institute of Urology. What year was that?
Well, I came over to London in 1977. I had already, I was a senior registrar in Dublin, and but I had done quite a bit of operating. When I came to London, I was lucky enough to have done quite a bit of surgery. So everything that I learned in London, in fact, was I was able to take it all in because it wasn't new. It was just new ways to do things that I had been doing, and I learned just fantastic stuff there from people like John Blandy, Peter Riddle, the learning how to do a cystectomy. I mean, it's a fantastic lesson that he gave all the time. John Pryor, Peter Worth, really excellent. But above all, of course, John Wickham, who really was a fantastic person for me. you knew him too very well, Roger, and I'm sure he really instilled again a huge interest in innovation, and this was his very, very strong point, and I think everybody who worked with him really enjoyed it.
And Mike Kellett was there, I think, at the same time, wasn't he, doing the nephroscopies and nephroscopies?
Yeah,
and so on and so
Mike Kellett was just one of the most superb interventional radiologists that I've ever seen, and
demure character, and but a great guy.
Such a nice man, and everybody got on so well together. It was really, really terrific, and all thanks to that. And so the first percutaneous nephrolithotomy done in the United Kingdom by John, and first percutaneous pylolysis. It was all innovation, and he developed the first true robot, all these things were being done when I was there. And so when I came back to Dublin in 1981, I came back as consultant urologist in the Meath Hospital and St James's Hospital and Trinity College, Dublin, and it was terrific. I was able to bring all that back with me. It just could not have been better. My time in London was such a happy time in every way. It was fantastic.
And then you spent some time with Rudi Hernfelter in Germany. Was that just after that, or
no? I did just momentarily forgot to mention that. That was another great experience. That was John Wickham.
Precede London or after London?
No, it was during London. I went there for 6 months. John Wickham set it up, and in fact, with Michael Marburger, and Michael was my main point of contact there. And as you know, Michael Marburger and I have remained close friends really since that time. But working there and seeing Rudi Hohenfellner in action was just amazing. I mean, he was and still is, of course, a really incredible figure in German urology, and
he attracted people from all over the world. I think he had some Japanese visitors, and
yes, I think I don't think we'll go into that particular story now, Roger. But yes, you're absolutely right, and he was inspirational. But when you think of the people who were working there at the time, Michael Marburger, Udo Jonas, Peter Alkin, Joe Churoff, Gunter Janacek, all of these people, fantastic people, all friends ever since that time, and that's a long time ago now.
And so tell me then about the becoming professor of urology, because that was bestowed upon you, that title at quite a young age, wasn't it?
Yeah, it certainly wasn't bestowed upon me. I had to go through the interview process, which was so I did 1981 to 1986 in the Meath Hospital and James's and Trinity, and then I was senior lecturer in urology there, and then the chair of surgery in University College Dublin and the Mater Hospital came up, and there was myself and 7 general surgeons interviewed for it. And the extern assessor was Sir Geoffrey Slaney, at that time president of the College of Surgeons of England. And I used to have great fun reminding him of the whole thing, because it was a very fraught, if you like, interview and discussion afterwards, because I think the Mater Hospital did not expect to get a urologist, and I thought they thought they were going to get a general surgeon. But the odds were very firmly on a general surgeon, but actually they got me, and that was for good or bad, I don't know, but anyway.
Thereby hangs several tales, I think.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
and then
sure.
Tell me, because you got involved in BAUS pretty early on, didn't you? So a pretty regular member of BAUS. And tell me, they voted you president of that august organization. Just tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that was quite fun. I had a long association with BAUS, and then in those days, in fact, this was the last time that the president was elected by BAUS Council, and I went up against another candidate, and in fact, it was a pretty close-run thing, but it was certainly successful for me, and it was I thought a terrific. I've always, as you know, I've always had a great relationship with my colleagues in England and Scotland and Wales, of course, and Northern Ireland, and the United Kingdom. And this, I thought, was a very nice thing for them to do, because here was me, an Irishman, actually working in Dublin. And suddenly I became president of BJUI, and I thought it was really very, very nice. And I appreciated it then, and I very much appreciate it still.
And I still remember, well, at least I remember parts of it. The famous meeting in Dublin that you organised there as president. I remember.
I had.
And after that, it goes a bit blank somehow.
in fact, so what I did was I had the first of my meetings was in Dublin and the second in Glasgow, and I also had you may remember the two autumn meetings, one in Galway and one in Killarney and one in Jersey, and but the ones in Ireland were certainly memorable, and I think my feeling was that everybody enjoyed them. It's a pity that BJUI hasn't been able to come back to Dublin. I know that there's a great welcome here for BJUI, but and I hope that sometime it will be possible for BJUI to come back.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Such a fantastic city. What about the journal then? Because I think this podcast is going out on the journal website. Tell me, I mean, that wasn't completely straightforward, was it? The editorship of the BJUI and how you
nothing really has been terribly straightforward. Everything in life, as you know, Roger, is a struggle and a fight. But in fact, so I had been on the editorial board of BJUI, of the BJUI, or the British Journal of Urology, as it was then, for quite a while. And in those days, the ruling body, if you like, was the editorial board, and the editor was in charge of that, and certainly the I suppose the BJUI company, the trustees, or whatever you want to call that body, very much played a lesser role, and so that was that. So my first attempt to become editor, I've always wanted to edit, and my first attempt to do that ended in abject failure. In fact, I went up.
It's unusual to hear you admit that.
I went up against somebody who subsequently went up against me as president for the presidency of BJUI. And in this instance, he became editor. He won the watch, and that I still remember the real disappointment of that. Then when he finished his time, I decided I'd give it another go, and this time I was successful. And I decided, and you know this only too well, because of course, Roger, you will remember that the discussions that we had and with Bob Campbell and others to do with changing the BJUI absolutely, completely, and so we did. And
what are the innovations that you're most proud of, do you think?
Well, so there are a number. I wanted to have a journal that people enjoyed reading, and people that they would open and with some, excitement is too much of a word to use, but something that would give them pleasure to look at, both from the color point of view and from the quality of the articles inside. I certainly think that that has been achieved. I wanted to have something that would be a memorable journal for many, many people. I had been struck by other journals such as Nature and Science that the beginning of those journals is full of newsy items. And also at the end of the Lancet, at the back of the Lancet, there used to be quite a newsy bit as well. And I said, well, news is what people like to read. And I went to a lot of scientist friends of mine and said, what's the best part of nature? And they all said the news bit. And so that was great fun, and that was one of the innovations that we did.
And Kevin Blanchett helps as a writer for that, doesn't he? I think he does a great job.
Kevin Blanchett has always done a fantastic job, because, in fact, I know, obviously, that he's listening, but I don't mind saying in front of him that he cottoned on to what I wanted very quickly, and I think that Euroscan at the beginning of the journal, with his help, has been a great success, and I think people do like reading it. The other thing that I like very much is the fact that we've been able to bring about significant penetration of the journal in the United States. I've a huge respect for the urologists in the United States, and I just wanted to have something that they would like to read, because obviously, and I know you feel the same way, I have a very high regard for their academic prowess, and so praise from them is praise indeed. And so that was something that, again, if you want to say, ask me something that I've done, I would say that is also good.
Any words of advice for the next editor? With Prokar Dasgupta isn't taken over, and that's not easy shoes to fill. But any words of advice for him?
I've two views on giving advice to people coming in. One is, give advice, but then what you're really doing is, in some ways, you're trying to still have an impact on something that is no longer yours. And so when I spoke to Prokar about the handover and everything like that, I did definitely give advice. But that was that, and there was no question of forcing it or anything like that. The one, I suppose, thing that I had, which was fantastic, was that I had an office with girls working in it who were bright and excellent at their job, and that office was in my academic building in the hospital. That was just it made it so much easier that one didn't have to travel. You had a hands-on sort of effect all the time, and that's the one thing that I would certainly say to Prokar, that wherever is the easiest place for him to have his office, that is where he should have it.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, I'll make sure that message gets through. He'll probably listen to this podcast anyway. So let's talk about John Fitzpatrick. Not as a urologist, but as a sort of person. And I know that you're what's sometimes described as a voracious reader.
Yeah.
Tell me what you're reading voraciously at the moment.
Well, so I've just come back from holidays in the south of France, and so I had plenty of time to read. So I read a book called Hiroshima Nagasaki, which it was written by an Australian journalist, Paul Ham, and it was an absolutely terrific account of the Manhattan Project and the effect of the bomb and on both those cities. I've been to Hiroshima, and the ruins of what they call the A-bomb dome, which is it's absolutely spine-chilling when you see it.
Yeah.
But so that was one, and then I read Sweet Tooth by Ian McEwan, which packed a punch, as all his books do, and I thought that was quite interesting. And currently, I'm reading. I think who is my favorite fiction author? Well, it has to be John le Carré. And as you know, I very pleasantly had dinner with him one time until you whisked him away from the seat that he was sitting at. But his, I think I
replaced him by a rather buxom blonde lady, if I remember.
But in any case, I'm reading The Little Drummer Girl by him at the present time.
Right, yeah. I just listened to The Spy That Came In From the Cold on one of those radio books.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It's an unbelievable book, and the Spy Who Came In From the Cold, and all of the hidden stuff is amazing in that book. I think that must be one of his greatest books, and it was one of his earliest, of course. So
brilliant twist at the end.
Fantastic.
Makes it so interesting. What about the girl with the dragon tattoo? I think you recommended to me that I read that trilogy.
Yeah, I think they were very, very good. They were.
We don't really want to get into violence against women as a topic here, but
no, I don't. I'm not even violent against men, Roger. So I don't have any violence in me, I'm afraid. I mean, that, as you know, verbally I can stand up for myself quite well, but certainly physically I wouldn't be interested in any of that stuff. I'm extremely safe. But you know, on my interest in history, you ask what am I reading now, but I really am interested, as you know, in history, and two of my heroes actually were fighting against each other at the beginning of the 19th century. That's to say, Napoleon and Nelson. And for different reasons, I have the highest regard for both of those.
The Iron Duke.
Sorry?
The Iron Duke.
The Iron Duke, I don't have quite such a respect for. He, I mean, if you compare Nelson with him, the great thing about Nelson was he was an innovator, and not only was he an innovator in the way he fought a battle, but also in his energy and his ability completely to take the enemy by surprise. And all of these things were just so marvelous to watch. In each of the battles that he fought, both of those characteristics came out. It was quite extraordinary, amazing. So the Iron Duke, not so much. Napoleon, of course, also was an innovator on the battlefield, but also Napoleon with his civil code, which still exists, the famous schools that he set up in Paris, the whole fabric, if you like, of modern France was, in fact, down, as far as I'm concerned, to Napoleon.
What about heroes from antiquity?
No, I don't have. I know that. Well, I suppose Scipio Africanus would definitely be one, but. My urological heroes would definitely be people who were my mentors, people like Frank Duff and Dan Kelly, John Wickham and John Blandy.
What about Daracot and some of the Americans that you know?
Yeah. I mean, Daracot Vaughan, Alan Ween, Bob
Walsh.
Crane. These guys, were all great friends of mine, and I think
Bob Crane especially. Good. Well, a little bit about music, then we might talk about some of those treks that you and I have done together.
Yes. Well, because
music first.
Yes, let's do music, because we don't have to speak too long about that. I love music, and in fact, hearing is a sense that I would absolutely hate to lose because of it. And who are my favorite composers at the present time? You go through all sorts of phases, but definitely the ones I really get most of from listening to now are definitely Bartok and Shostakovich. In fact, I've just bought a collection of Bartok, which is in honor of the anniversary of Sir Georg Scholti. And he was, of course, conducting the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, and all of the music of Bartok, orchestral music, is on this series of about 7 or 8 CDs. So it's a great that. And Shostakovich, of course, covered the whole panoply. I mean, absolutely everything, every type of music, a little bit of jazz, a little bit of classical, a little bit of modern, a little bit of discordance. He had it all. Both of these composers are magnificent. Anyway, that's music.
So I think we need to wind up fairly soon, but you and I have done some treks in various interesting parts of the world, some cycling too. Do you have a favourite amongst those?
Well, it's funny because I'm sure you remember when it all started. In fact, you and I were having dinner, and sitting beside us was Sir Peter Morris, then president of the College of Surgeons, and he was obviously very, very much into sport, particularly cricket, and you came up with the idea of going up Kilimanjaro, and asked me did I want to go, and I said no, and then both of you started slightly taunting me, and so I felt I had to do it, and ever since then, of course, and I think that was 2003, wasn't it? Every year we've been doing, I think, tougher and tougher challenges, although I think Kilimanjaro was tough, certainly, but if you think of the last ones that we did, the GR20 in Corsica, which was pretty horrendous, and followed then by the trek in Nepal, in Mustang. Wow, that was extremely tough, and when you look back on it, I'm sure you'll agree as well that was not at all easy. So these are great moments, and I definitely am glad that
you were one of the people that helped found Tough in the beginning, weren't you? So how did that happen? That was some money from where?
Well, it seems to me that the British Urological Foundation, as it was then, and is now the Urology Foundation, of which, of course, you're the driving force. I way back when I was in fact chairman of the BJU, or British Journal of Urology, as it was then, committee. We both with BAUS, and I think the president of BAUS, if memory serves, was Bill Hendry, and Bill didn't exactly cotton on to the idea initially, and but then did, and in fact both BJUI and BAUS contributed. Oh no, it wasn't Bill. Was it Joe Smith maybe?
Yeah, Joe.
Yeah, sorry, it was Joe Smith. Yes, I beg your pardon, it was Joe, and I beg his pardon. And in fact, both BAUS and the BJU put forward 250,000, which in those days was actually a lot of money. That was in the 90s, and that set off the beginnings of it. And then there were, of course, as you know, huge contributions which you and to a lesser degree myself got from the pharmaceutical industry in the days when they were flush and they were able to give money. Not so now, of course. But in fact, that has been, that charity thing has been. I know you're very interested in. Actually, so am I. And now,
that's just going to finish up with what you're doing at the moment.
Yeah, well, in fact, it's most of my time now is spent with the Irish Cancer Society, where I'm head of research, and involving oneself in cancer research across the board, not just urological research, is quite interesting because, of course, you have to spend a lot of time pushing it in the media and on radio programs and television and in the newspapers, and it's something that we've both done a lot of media interviews, but actually when you realize that you have to get your message across, it really doesn't matter what the questions you're asked are. You just have to get a message across, and that is very interesting, and certainly it brings a new dimension. So all of these things that we've said have brought, at different stages of my life and my career, have brought new and quite interesting adventures, if you like, and certainly I think that is it's been a great experience.
It's been a fun journey, hasn't it?
Yes, yes, it has.
Really good. Okay, well, John, I think we'll wind it up there because I think we've covered a lot of things, lots more we could say. But thank you so much for that. That it was so interesting. Bye.
Thank you very much, Roger.